The Gospel of Mark is characterized by an extreme economy of words. The author builds a narrative through rapid, taut pacing, stripping away excess detail to focus on continuous action. To maintain this momentum, Mark leans heavily on the Greek word euthes, meaning immediately. He uses it over 40 times in just 16 chapters, constantly pushing the story forward without allowing the reader to pause. Yet, in the middle of this relentless forward drive, Mark brings his narrative momentum to a complete halt to recount what appears to be the exact same miracle twice within 3 chapters. He details the miraculous feeding of the 5,000 in chapter 6, and then records the feeding of the 4,000 in chapter 8. Why would an author who writes with such fierce economy dedicate precious manuscript space to a redundant event? Liberal critical scholars often write off the chapter 8 account as a duplicate fallacy. They suggest it is merely a corrupted, secondary oral tradition of chapter 6 that accidentally found its way into the final text. The internal data of the Gospel suggests otherwise. The repetition between these chapters is highly structured and mathematically precise. Mark is utilizing typology, the method by which biblical authors use physical realities and historical events to foreshadow specific spiritual truths. The core thesis of the structure is that the specific, differing numbers in these 2 accounts function as a prophetic map charting the expansion of the New Covenant. These numerical variables serve as the foundational architecture for a narrative that systematically broadens the scope of Christ's ministry. The first miracle in chapter 6 is situated on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. Jesus is operating strictly within Jewish territory. If we map the starting variables of this first event, we see Jesus begins with 5 loaves to feed 5,000 men. But the climax of the narrative data lies in the specific volume of the leftovers, exactly 12 baskets. In a first-century Jewish context, the number 12 points directly to the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus is acting as the new Moses, miraculously providing bread in the wilderness to the chosen people. Chapter 6 functions as the theological realization of God's promise to Israel. The Messiah has arrived to gather the original covenant people into his church. Looking at the geographic layout of the region, we see Jesus departs from the western shore following this first miracle. He crosses the Sea of Galilee to the eastern side of the Jordan River, into the region known as the Decapolis. The Decapolis was a coalition of 10 prominently Gentile cities. This area was culturally removed from Jewish customs and often hostile to them. Mark establishes this non-Jewish setting earlier in the text by noting the presence of feeding swine, animals that Israelites were strictly forbidden by the Torah to raise or eat. The transition becomes explicit in chapter 7, during Christ's encounter with the Syro-Phoenician woman, who was a Gentile from Canaan. The study notes for this section summarize the theological rule established during their exchange. Israel's leftover bread would be given to the Gentile dogs. This physical crossing of geographic boundaries prepares the reader for a significant shift in the scope of Christ's salvation. That brings us to the second feeding miracle in chapter 8, which occurs firmly within this Gentile territory. Bringing our comparative matrix back up to log the new variables, we see 7 loaves and 4,000 people. Because of the geographic setting, we can infer this crowd of 4,000 is primarily composed of Gentiles, and the final metric shifts accordingly, leaving exactly 7 leftover baskets. In the context of ancient Canaan, the number 7 carries specific historical weight. As the text notes detail, the 7 baskets represent the 7 historical Gentile nations that occupied Canaan alongside Israel, an accounting originally listed in the book of Deuteronomy. Contrast the completed columns against each other. We have the 12 tribes of Israel mapped against the 7 nations of the Gentiles. Mark 8 functions as the essential second half of a theological diptych, documenting the offer of the bread of life to the international world. Jesus demands an analytical reading of these miracles from his own followers. In the boat scene immediately following the second feeding, the disciples express anxiety over a lack of physical bread. Jesus interrupts their panic to demand a strict accounting of the data points from his recent actions. He forces them to answer aloud. When he broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets were left? They answer 12. And the 7 for the 4,000? They answer 7. He then delivers a piercing question. Do you not yet understand? To dismiss the numerology of these texts as mere coincidence is to fail the exact intellectual test Christ administered to the apostles. The physical bread in these miracles points to its ultimate theological reality, the Messianic banquet. Mark connects the feedings in chapters 6 and 8 through a deliberate sequence of verbs. In both, Jesus is described as taking the bread, blessing or giving thanks, breaking it, and giving it. Looking at the linguistic roots, the specific Greek verb used for giving thanks is eucharisteo, the basis for the word Eucharist. This exact sequence of verbs, taking, giving thanks, breaking, and giving, appears only in these feeding narratives and at the Last Supper. Through this Eucharistic anticipation, Jesus shows that this singular sacrament will feed the entirety of humanity. The Markan diptych proves that the new covenant is universally binding. It establishes one eternal table capable of satisfying both the 12 tribes of Israel and the 7 nations of the Gentile world.